I want to thank Encore for inviting me. I am new to this. I've never been even to Pigeon Forge. I'm from the north, as you can tell with my accent, as Colleen informed you all. But I still like to use you all because I'm starting to do more work and have coworkers from the Carolinas into the Tennessees too. So the four main objectives in this presentation, as you see, it's your personal mentorship, it's your professional mentorship, it's that phase of a mentee to a mentor, and also the ongoing mentorship. So to what Dr. McIntyre said, as pulmonary rehab is an ongoing lifestyle, mentorship can be a similar thing too. I like to display the why in a presentation because when I'm in your seat, I like to know the why in the presenter. Be it a pastor, a professor, I want to know what drives them, their background, maybe what they came from, what they're going to, and simply I'm proud of my family. So my family, like mentioned, 4 boys, ages from 6, the oldest, down to a 9-month-old. And actually, I didn't say this to Dr. McIntyre, but our youngest is named Duke, where he works, so little ties to that. Yes, my beautiful high school sweetheart, she is a physical therapist. We're both blessed not only in healthcare, but also we get to do home care, so we have some enjoyment with that in our day-to-day conversations and how we get to serve in our community. A good part of my presentation is from this rather quick read. When I was challenged to provide this presentation on mentorship, after looking at different options, I really honed in on this. It really breaks it down just to the objectives I'm providing. And we'll give some real-life examples, some fun analogies. So if anyone that wants to look more into it, maybe you're in leadership, maybe you want to bring it to a leadership table from a hospital or other healthcare settings, I recommend this. Be it $10, $15 probably easily to buy online or buy at a local bookstore and use. The first objective, your personal mentorship. It's something that I myself never thought about, right, as a parent of young boys. But we ourselves, when we're in our youth, and be it a parent or the different aspects of around youth, be it you're a teacher, maybe you're in education, you're at this conference, you're a coach, we mentor youths. So the Oxford Dictionary takes the word mentor, and it can also interchangeably use advisor, guru, and that's what a mentor is. It advises, it directs. And we as parents do that, grandparents, aunts, uncles, older siblings, the teachers, coaches, Sunday school teachers, we advise and lead. And it really is a form of mentorship. So we'll dive more into the personal aspect. So how we behave will come from that initial family to be what you're raised in, but there's people outside the home that will also tell you that. I always like to kind of have that conversation, why respiratory therapists, right? Maybe you had a disease yourself, you grew up with asthma, maybe a sibling had asthma, maybe a grandparent had COPD, cystic fibrosis, list goes on. But how did you stumble into, I use the word stumble, but how did I stumble into respiratory therapy? I stumbled into it as I had a neighbor, more or less a second mom, that, right, and when your neighborhood kids running around, you basically, maybe you ate dinner at their home more than you ate dinner in your own house some weeks, but that's how I came into respiratory therapy. And that would be a part right there in that personal piece. How did you all enter into respiratory? So I have an older siblings, they're in healthcare, I didn't want to wait to get into nursing, so I went into respiratory. Had a local school, was able to go between a community college and a university, and in my early 20s already a respiratory therapist. And there's different aspects and different spots in that quick journey I just mentioned where one can be a mentor. So in this room, one of you could help direct, be it your own child, maybe a friend's child, a neighborhood, local high school, maybe your coach, you could guide them into respiratory. They might not have any idea what it is, as I didn't either as a teenager, let alone in high school. And then like I said, I stumbled into it. And I couldn't be more thankful to be here right now speaking, but just the day-to-day of what that profession provides. Maybe you all realize that too. In that personal mentorship, it's the bottom line there. It's the bring the cookie jar down so all can reach it. And that needs to be a common theme, right? We don't want to have to be able to reach too far. You want to make it attainable to what you're providing in that mentorship aspect, in that overall leadership too, because there's definitely very overlap. Just because you're a mentor doesn't actually mean you're in leadership. Just because you're in leadership doesn't actually mean you're a mentor. But for me, it was very much an overlap, and that's how I am here today still. But just in all those aspects, just continually use that analogy that when you are maybe mentoring or maybe training someone, just know that put it down to a basic level. Keep it simple. Maybe you're even instructing a patient, a family member on some type of service. Keep it simple. Bring it down. I indicate the respiratory professor, right? Those also is kind of that personal to then early professional mentorship. What are they instructing? And if you are a respiratory professor, that's as a strong mentorship in our field. And that's very well needed too. So in short, I thank you for that. I know, unfortunately, in Michigan, we've had actually a handful of respiratory programs close. And that is concerning. And yes, there's more online respiratory programs, but just having that respiratory, be that preceptor as well. The teachers to coaches, right? They nurture us. They know a strong coach knows what player needs to be nurtured versus knows how to drive them to get to the best of what they need to do. Yes, I'm from Michigan. Yes, that is our current football coach, Jim Harbaugh. And yes, we aren't the #1 in the current playoff polls that came out 2 days ago. We're #5, but as we'll all find out in 2 days, and for us in Michigan, we'll find out, by Thanksgiving weekend, truthfully how all the dust settles. So, side note, I'm looking forward. I'm definitely a volunteer this week. So yeah, I'm excited to sing Rocky Top as much as I can come Saturday. So, sports is a big part of my wife and I. Still to this day, raising our kids instills a lot of great qualities when you play sports. I had the ability to coach our sons, be it in T-ball, Little League, and we'll see what that comes with. But there's a strong mentorship in coaching. I direct you to Hall of Fame speeches. So every first week of August, the National Football Foundation has their Hall of Fame inductee in Canton, Ohio. With today's technology, you can watch all those Hall of Fame speeches, be it within 24 hours, that they provide in Canton, since not most people are in Ohio. It's a terrible state. But those videos show who mentored those Hall of Fame football administrators, coaches, players, even owners. You'll know, was it that uncle? Was it that high school coach that brought them to a place they never thought they could be at? And I point to football, but you can use it for any other sports too. But that Hall of Fame speeches, it's phenomenal. And in those coaches, they celebrate, and this will be a recurring theme that you'll hear me say again. I'll have other recurring themes too. But they celebrate the success. You celebrate that success in Little League. You celebrate that success all throughout sports and overall in life, but celebrate the success in be it your mentee when you are advising, coaching, teaching. We play Rutgers, primetime. It's in New York. Technically, I think it's actually New Jersey. It's a blackout. A lot of Metallica going on. We'll see. But so after you guys celebrate your win, you can come. If you can get the Big Ten Network, you can celebrate a Michigan win as well. So we're going to focus on to the professional mentorship, the second objective. So when I was going through respiratory school, it was actually during the recession in the mid to late 2000s. I actually had a fair amount. I was, quote unquote, fresh out of high school, more traditional age for college, but a lot, probably half of my respiratory program were those on their second to third career. And it was very interesting to listen to them when you're new to not only college, but new to respiratory, to listen to what they advised just into the day-to-day marketplace, the careers. And that's how I actually ended up working in Indianapolis for a couple of years, because I had some mentors who said, Don't work at the local health system, right? Get out, go do something different. You're young enough, you're not tied back to home. And that was very important to me. Maybe you guys encountered that as well. Like, maybe don't just go do bedside acute care, right? I make the joke, I ended up on the dark side of home care. Maybe you end up on the quote unquote dark side of long-term care in a skilled facility. But maybe someone mentored you to get there. Once again, it's needed. Discuss that. Share your experience with someone that's in an earlier stage in the professional piece. It could be a clinical preceptor. It's something that maybe one day I'll get into education. I really enjoy that clinical preceptor, that the one that I had was the background, right? They did 25 plus years as your bedside acute care respiratory therapist, but they were changing their day-to-day into education. Maybe that's where you can be. And look into that. I challenge you to do that. When you're a new respiratory therapist, are there students at this symposium? Is there students here? Back in Michigan, when we have our respiratory conferences, it's well over 50%. It's heavily on the student side. They're required to go to it by their respiratory program. So kudos to them making them have to come in, but because they don't need CEUs yet. But that was really important to me when I was a new respiratory therapist. And for you that aren't new, right? Remember back when you had that orientation. Maybe you had someone that quote unquote you latched on to that could teach you the way of the ICU, the ED, show you the day-to-day. Hey, lean on maybe this nurse, or maybe this pulmonologist will actually take the time with you, or this nurse supervisor, respiratory supervisor. Maybe stay away from that one. That's one of those where, hey, they haven't had their coffee yet, just stay away. But because we all had that experience, doesn't matter what parts of the country it exists. But know that when you have a new respiratory student come into your department, maybe be that mentor and let them latch onto you. Reach out to them. Extend that olive branch. What can you do to advise that new respiratory therapist? That's something that I try to do myself. Usually in home care, they're not a new respiratory therapist out of college, right? Maybe they did a couple years on night shift. Maybe that's why they're leaving the hospital, because they want to get off night shift, and it's a way to get off night shift is to go into home care, more traditional business hours. But still be that mentor. Show them what to do and well beyond. I continue to point to this. Think who influenced you. If that individual is still available, maybe through social media, take the time to thank them. Take the time to maybe ask them how it came to be that maybe they were a mentor. Maybe still work with them. Maybe what caused that? Who could influence you, thus who can you then go on to influence? Maybe what made that mentor different? Think about that. And when I stepped back and prepared for this, it really was what they thought and saw in you. Right? You could tell there was a connection there. And they believed in you. And in return, you'll believe in yourself. So just be reminded of that. I don't know what it's like to work in a hospital right now. I haven't worked in a hospital over a decade. Sure, I go to hospitals, help maybe with the discharge for other reasons, but I can't imagine. But you have an impact on those respiratory therapists. So for those in the inpatient side, continue to instill that confidence in that younger student. Maybe they came into it right in 2019, 2020. They didn't know a difference of day-to-days before the pandemic. Short staffing, not even having a ventilator. Now, what we're currently seeing, I've had nonstop emails. It's how can we get this trach or that trach? They're unavailable everywhere. Different sizes, discontinued, supply shortages, 2-week, 4-week out delays. That's unprecedented, at least in my, I would say jokingly, short career in respiratory, but instill that confidence in that younger. Be that mentor, just give that support too. So just know, instill that in others, because someone hopefully once upon a time did it to you too. The mentee to mentor. When does that time come? Do people get training with it? I would say on-the-job training, probably most in this room. But I propose the question, does your employer offer leadership, mentorship training? Do you have access to it? If you wanted to do it, do you know where you would need to ask? It's something that I know on our side of our company, our human resources, our HR team has looked into that, has wanted to make it offer. Yes, it's virtual. It's probably a presentation like this, but it is a form of resource to get started, be it on the home care side, it's a branch manager, maybe it's like a dispatch supervisor manager, maybe it's a manager of a billing side, but maybe whatever company you work for, maybe they offer that too. And if not, ask for it. Look for it. Maybe something that you have a passion on and you can bring to your own company, to your own department. Once again, overall, raise the bar on that. And when becoming the mentor, you really need to first learn and know yourself before you then can move over and seek others. In the topic of power of mentorship, which is the title of my presentation, one thing I really gather from this is when you mentor someone, though you're not really doing it for this, but you truthfully can live on forever when you successfully mentor someone. And maybe you can think about that right now. You think about who maybe mentored you. Dr. McIntyre, I'm sure, has mentored many, right? He indicates he had those fellows. He will live on because of how he mentored those previous residents, fellows, physical therapists, whoever was part of his team. And that's really what I gathered from this. And then you can live forever. Because it's not about what you do, but it's how you also went along doing it, and what you got from it, and what you instilled in others. That's truthfully that's like the one thing takeaway, is that you can live on forever, if that's a goal, but you can live on forever when you properly lead and advise, and you are that mentor. Mentorship isn't easy. It takes extra effort, right? It's easy just to go about your day, do your treatments, see your patients, document, chart, quote unquote, stay in your lane, have blinders on. That's easy. But do more. People also will gravitate towards you. They will follow that when you continue to believe in them. But first, once again, believe in yourself. And in doing that, once again, it very well can make your whole department improve, and that's day to day. My hope is that one isn't just punching a clock and punching out. You're not just a number that clocked in and got a paycheck. It's more than that. And that's really also where I have a passion in. It's not just going through the motions. And that's also where it takes time to be that mentor, because it's not going through the motions. It's that active involvement in being a mentee, a student, or another coworker. And I point to see everyone that you mentored as a 10. And what that means is see the best in them, equip them, put fuel in their tank. When they're having a tough time, see where you can bring them to the best. And there will absolutely be times where you're having a hard day, struggle day, and they can also return the favor to lift you up. And to the overall kind of theme of sports, that's what you learn when you're on a team, is you can pick the other one up physically, but also mentally you can pick the other one up. And absolutely in the last 2.5 years that's been needed throughout all of healthcare, but in our specific profession too. Continue on this, right? It's the analogy of a flight, not a bus, but a flight to take off. And that's what you're doing when you are a mentor. You're truthfully clearing that path. You're helping them catapult towards their full potential, right? You're not doing it solo. They're not doing it solo, but you're teaching them to fly alongside them, and you're clearing that path. And you won't regret it. Once again, not easy, but you won't regret it. It's going to overall complement yourself. And really, in the mentor, if you also are in leadership, you have staffing issues, and this isn't the reason why you do this, but that employee that you instilled that mentorship with, they very well can come in the clutch to maybe pick up an extra shift, maybe stay that extra 4 hours to bridge the gap as night shift was lacking, or maybe weekend shift was lacking. It's also, I would say, the indirect power of a mentorship is that when you do that, that mentee, that him or herself will also want to become a mentor, and as you challenge them and try to get them to the best where they need to be, they're going to support you. Once again, just in staffing alone, I mean, it's not just in hospital, it's across healthcare, right? Home care, the staffing is an issue. And that's really important. The mentoring is meant to be shared. It's not meant to be done alone. This walk isn't meant to be done alone. So do it with others. And in this whole presentation, right, it's not about waveforms and ventilator and synchrony. So if you have to say what you learned at this, come back and bring that passion of working together and being a mentor within your own department. That's really just the overall, I'm not a fan of the term vibes, but just bring over the morale and the vibes, as that's a nice term in social media, but bring the vibes up of your team. It can all do us a whole lot better. And you really, at the end of the day, you need that positive outlook for our best patient care. I strongly believe in that too. And the term synergy comes up, right? Synergy in short is if two individuals are doing something together, they can achieve more, right? When they're separate, they have their own individual effects, but combined, they can even affect even greater. So just may you all have synergy in your day-to-day too in your departments, because that will also multiply everyone's success. To loan your beliefs, right? Just continue to reiterate. When you lose faith, when that employee, your coworker, it doesn't have to be respiratory too, I haven't said this yet, it can be a medical assistant. It can be the individual that's maybe doing housekeeping or bringing a food tray, to use more examples in the hospital. In home care, it can be someone that's delivering oxygen, which would be a delivery tech. Maybe someone's cleaning a commode, but you can still mentor that individual. You can loan your belief when you see that they're losing faith in themselves in the day-to-day. Because that's what I also want to always just, my underlying theme is, I will always, my best to be smiling. I will always try to act as if everything is rainbows and sunshine. Because a lot of things do stink. Our world has fallen, and there's pain and suffering. But loan your belief in your coworkers when they're losing their own faith. And then next, catch them when you see them falling. Right? That, I'm kind of giving that visual, but sometimes you might have to physically catch them. And I'll point to this later in the talk about the physical touch and the importance of it to be the best leader and the overall encourager. You sometimes have to touch them. Be careful, I work for a family-owned company, so overall hugging is very common. But I'm a touchy individual. I'm from a handshake to a fist bump to a hug, even to a side hug. That physical touch, that catch goes a long way. And in that, you can then give more clarity to the individual because they can feel that connection. They can see that you guys are achieving the same goals. Back to that synergy example. That goes a long way. And though you may not see the results right away, example of being a parent, right? You don't see the results right now of why you're instilling everything you are in your kids, trying to protect them, save them, make sure they have appropriate clothes on. But down the road, you can see that all come to be and the success and the benefit from it. Give the clarity and share dreams, right? Just having that connection, a mentor, talk about what the individual wants to do. Okay, so today they're doing your traditional floor therapy. Maybe you can help guide that mentee to doing more in respiratory. Maybe they want to get into sleep. Maybe they want to get into pulmonary rehab. And you can help guide and mentor them to that. Make the connections. Maybe you've been working at the hospital long enough. You know who's the head of the department for pulmonary rehab. Maybe you know who maybe works for a home care company or long-term care, and they need something to better complement their personal life. Share their dreams with them and make those connections. It's relatively effortless. It's just people you know. Knowledge is power. Utilize that too. We'll see how this analogy goes over with not involved but committed. So, The analogy is about a kamikaze pilot. So one could say that a kamikaze pilot who flew 50 missions was involved, but was not committed to the mission of a kamikaze pilot. So first off, you need to know what a kamikaze pilot is. Some don't. In short, it's one that may take their life in the mission. So if you do more than one kamikaze mission, you weren't, I would say, then committed to completing the mission at task. So, thank you. So, be committed when you are mentoring. Yes, it does take energy, it does take time, but be committed in doing it. Quick little picture there of horse training. Those bars, I never raised horses. I've only ridden it a couple times, but it's that physical bar. You set it to a place that can be achieved, but you're also putting at a place that they need to stretch themselves, being not a horse, but that stretching, physically, mentally, skill set stretching for that mentee in order to achieve the goal of getting over, quote unquote, that bar, that fence, that objective treatment in the workplace. Help them stretch. And in that, when you're helping them stretch, the book that I referenced, the Mentoring 101, they use the analogy, the process of 5 steps of training. And in those 5 steps of training, it's 1, you as the mentor, you complete the task. The second is you help mentor while you're also completing the task, so i.e. completing it, also discussing why you're completing it, how to go about doing it. The third, more or less roles flip, the mentee will now complete the task while you're actively mentoring them, be it from like a patient's door or back in the respiratory department. 4, the mentee is actively completing the task successfully. And then the 5th step, the task that maybe only you did yourself, now it's being multiplied by not only that mentee, but maybe others as well. And just know that there is steps in the process of be it training a new hire, and there's a reason for it. Don't just rush through it. Be committed to it and actively pursue to make them the best of themselves as well. The last objective is the ongoing mentorship, which currently is a theme, be it Dr. McIntyre or myself, right? Pulmonary rehab, lifestyle, mentorship can also be an ongoing lifestyle commitment. Like a puzzle piece has that specific place to be placed to complete that puzzle, your mentee also was uniquely designed to be placed in their workplace, be it in the specific department or floor of a hospital. So help place them in the puzzle of a hospital, properly do that. And then really, back to a previous analogy, watch them take off, watch them fly. And may you have, overall just comfort and success in knowing that. Some more acronyms. It's always great when the presenters actually explain what the acronym is. It's a pet peeve of mine. In healthcare, we have a lot of acronyms, from research studies to action groups to treatments. And you see up there, right? To be the best and a top mentor, they're encouragers. And we'll start with the acronym BEST. And that, once again, comes from the Mentoring 101 book. So for BEST, B stands for believe. The E stands for encourage. I'd say 2 things that, sure, we all know that that's needed, but just to really actually think and take time and energy in doing that. And don't just go through the motions, but actually think about believing and encouraging, words of encouragement with that mentee and that ongoing mentorship. Maybe that mentee that you did mentor, he or she maybe is a supervisor now. Maybe you are a daytime manager. Well, you can still mentor that quote-unquote mentee. Encourage them when they need it. The S stands for share. Share your work ethic. Share hope. That hope will help lead them on. The T leads us to the next acronym is trust. Trust in them as they will also trust into you. It's reciprocated. The T in trust stands for time. In a little bit of time, I'll be giving you guys all the lunch so we can stay on time. But in this, time is take time to listen, take time to provide feedback. R, respect them. U, give unconditional positivity. Back to my comment of all things are rainbows and sunshine, that's how I skip about my day. It will work, it will be contagious, it will spread. So always have that unconditional positivity, not just with the mentee, but just overall your day-to-day. That's absolutely a challenge. It makes a world of difference. In my day-to-days, when I'm talking to a case manager at a hospital, I'm talking to a nurse liaison with the hospice agency, outpatient clinic, etc., one can tell if they're demonstrating that unconditional positivity, regardless of the situation, regardless of the storm that's brewing or the storm they're going through. One can tell if that's really at their core. And I try to be contagious with that over the phone, over email, text, in person. May I do it today too. The S is sensitive. Emotions, feelings. I call myself more old school, right? I want to dismiss that. Leave those emotions at home. Don't bring that to the workplace. No, it's not that. Acknowledge it. One can discuss it. But at the same time, yes, we need to be careful with those emotions because it will affect the care that we give. Because people do come to work with that. So we can't just turn a blind eye to it, but acknowledge it, address it in the way that needs to be done, and move on from it. But don't just simply dismiss it. And the last T is touch. Once again, the fist bump, the high five, maybe a quick point, acknowledgement. That goes a long way because that is encouragement. It's encouragement for me. Back to a sports analogy, slap on the butt. It goes a long way. Don't do that in the workplace. Do that in sports. But that's my point. And to those that are watching back or they watch us in recording, it does happen in the warehouse. As encouragement. I'm the receiver, unfortunately. But yes, so strike that from the record, HR. Not recommended in the workplace. All right, you gotta have some comic relief. So if there's anything that I can tell you, right, Reader's Digest taught us all what type of medicine is the best type of medicine. Laughter is the best type of medicine. Reader's Digest. May you all not forget that, and may you continue to demonstrate that. All right. The best type of leaders exhibit consistency. And I will point to the one that mentored me in home care. So I'm here today because my mentor, my work mom, my respiratory mom, her name is Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen was jokingly part of the Gantt Mafia. She worked for Gene. She displayed consistency every day. To the point where we even made the analogy, and even some of my coworkers over a decade ago made bracelets. What would Mary Ellen do? Right? Similar to the WWJD. What would Jesus do? But what would Mary Ellen do? And in home care, it might be 9 p.m. at night on a Saturday, and you may be somewhere where you don't even have cell phone service. But that consistency that you saw displayed by Mary Ellen, and now I've been challenged and blessed over the years to do it in my current role and ongoing role, is what would she do? How would she handle this? Or maybe you're in home care, right? You're at a branch, you don't have a quick respiratory department. You are the respiratory department for 5 counties radius. What would she do talking to that upset caregiver, that referral? In the hospital, you don't discuss about bills and deductibles and co-pays and when your insurance renews. In home care, we do. There's a crazy game right now that everyone's trying to play the deductible game and trying to get their CPAP before the deductible renews in 57 days with the holidays. But displaying that consistency to have that conversation is what I also now challenge to you. If you're in a role of leadership, mentorship, know that that consistency is noticed and they will remember that. And then they can also speak it with conviction. And that's a challenge that I have with my staff too. A challenge for myself, a challenge for my family, is you need to be confident in what you discuss. You need to be comfortable in what you discuss and competent. And in that will also display consistency. And yes, those are all C letter words. And that's what I also indicate to when we have a new respiratory therapist hired at our companies. You need to have those things. Because when we're discussing advanced ventilator support in the home, a compassionate, quote-unquote, terminal wean, you need to have that consistency and comfortability and confidence in doing that. And when that consistency is displayed, it goes a really long way. So for that, I say thank you to Mary Ellen for helping me with that. Last time, right, a little fun thing you could maybe you had last week. Happy belated Respiratory Care Week. Had the joy of celebrating ourselves up in Michigan. It's always a fun time. Whatever it looked like for you and your team. But maybe you have this up on a poster or somewhere, right? Encouragement is oxygen for the soul. And it always gives hope. Just one of those kind of like little things you can have at your desk, maybe on your name tag. Maybe it can be attached as a little thing that, I could be president or I'm a big deal. Maybe it could just be O2 is encouragement for the soul. So there you go, Encore. You can use that next year. Ongoing mentorship, kind of in closing with all this, it will take people higher. It will allow them to match up their goals. It will allow them to connect their strengths in the overall opportunity. Into the analogy, and think about that with Coach Jim Harbaugh, kind of just do one of these on the sidelines, champion their success. We all fail. That's universal. When we succeed, when we accomplish, celebrate it. The celebration principle, but champion that success as well. As you can see, I have that passion, I have that rah-rah. That's what I do. I love it. I've been blessed. I believe I'm called to be that leader, that captain. But just do that. Do it almost at nausea and celebrate it, the day-to-day success of everyone wins. And though I've never experienced kind of the night of one of these symposiums, I'm excited to hang out with vendors. I challenge you all to connect with vendors and manufacturer reps. They're a wealth of knowledge to what Dr. Landon was saying. But when you mentor, and to what I was referring to tonight, is it can be a party, right? That's the whole point of it. Because the power of a mentor, it's all one big party. Because you're celebrating. That's a party. And that's what I once again continue to challenge all of you on to do. Is be that mentor, continue to live on, have that legacy even, and continue to encourage, be it the next generation of respiratory therapists and other people in healthcare too. So thank you all. I appreciate your guys' time. I'm pretty confident we're moving well on to lunch, and with that we can continue to discuss and talk too. So yeah, thank you.